So as requested by one of you guys down below in the comments, you wanted to see how you know what game to select for what method. This is something we'll look into in a lot more detail when we do the full week-long video where we will do a full week of choosing a game, pairing it up with a method, and then seeing how much money we earn. But just as a quick little guide before we do that video, I thought I'd show you guys how we do it. So today I'm about to get recording the under 2.5 goal method. So I already know what I'm looking for in terms of that game. I'm looking for a game where there is goals expected so that the odds are high enough before we place the bet. But I'm also looking for a game where the goals tend to go in either late in the first half or in the second half itself. So that's something we're going to be looking for today. So if I show you guys behind me, you can see the website I'm going to be using is soccerstats.com. Quite simply, this website just has the most stats I've ever seen on a website before, so I find it the most helpful. But there is plenty of other sites out there, because essentially all you need to do to decide how to pair a game with a strategy is either have the strategy in mind, the one specifically you're looking to do, know what stats are needed for that game, then you can pair them up with a game using a stats website, or you can just choose any game that you want to put a bet on and then look at the stats and decide which strategy suits it best. But today, like I said, we are going for a under 2.5 goal strategy, so for that purpose, that's the exact game I'm going to be looking for. So if we look behind me here, it is Good Friday, which gives you a good indication as to when I was recording this video. Don't worry, I don't record all my videos this far in advance, but I am busy for the next few weeks, so these are getting pre-recorded, and some of you guys put some suggestions in, so I want to make sure I do them, because as always, if you don't already know, any suggestion that comes in down in the comments, as long as it applies to the channel, I'll be happy to do it as a video. So if you've got any suggestions yourself, let me know down below. But we can see here a good selection of games today, because it is Good Friday. It's basically like a Saturday in England for football. So what I'm going to do, quite simply, is I'm just going to look up some of the games. I'm going to open them up into the stats page. As you can see here, I'm just selecting stats and moving them along. And then all I'm going to do is open up the page, and you can see here there is a load of information jumping out at you for anything you need to see. So you can see here, in terms of Bournemouth home matches, there has been over 2.5 goals 47% of the time, as has there been with Middlesbrough. So you can see there already, it's kind of looking like a game where there should be goals expected, which is very handy. But next thing we need to make sure happens is the times of the goals. So if you keep scrolling it down, you'll see down on here on the right hand side, you can see here Bournemouth at home and Middlesbrough away. You can see when they score the goals and when they concede them. So Bournemouth have scored 4, conceded 2 in the opening 15 minutes. Middlesbrough have scored 2 and conceded 5 in the opening 15 minutes. So you can already see there, especially with the colour gradient, that it's not looking too good for this bet, because quite a lot of Middlesbrough's goals have actually come in the opening half an hour. And Bournemouth don't do badly in the opening half hour either. It then does a little handy thing down here at the bottom where it tells you the average minute they score a goal and average minute they concede a goal. You want these to be as late as possible. So what I normally do when I'm trying to decide what game to put a bet on is I will open up a good few, and then I'll look through them all, compare which seems to be the worst and best, and then keep going until I get one that jumps out, or one or two, before we head over to Betfair. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look through a few of these games, decide which one looks like there's going to be a few goals, but maybe not as early on. So this one looks perfect, to be honest. You can see by the colour gradient, green means that's the perfect time for that game, because for that team I should say, because that means that's when they're most likely to score goals but not concede them. Red means they're not going to score but they are going to concede, whereas yellow or orange basically means they don't tend to do a lot. So you can see here with Stoke and Bristol City, we've literally got a spot on example, because both don't score a lot and don't concede a lot in them opening 15 minutes. The average time they score and average time they concede is around the 45th minute to 50th minute. So we are still going to want to get out of this method fairly quickly, like around about the 10th minute, but that's standard with this. But you can see most of their goals do tend to come in the second half, which is spot on, as long as they don't concede in the opening few minutes. So at this point, what I do is I know that this is going to be a better game than the Middlesbrough one for this bet, so I will close down the Middlesbrough one. I'll then get looking at the next one, and I'll go do that for the remaining few of these games, and I'll be right back with you. So I've now narrowed it down to 3, and this is only out of the initial few games that I selected. You can always go down into League 1, League 2, you can go to the National League. All I'd say is the more obscure the league is, the less money is going to be in them games on the market. So definitely try and keep to some as higher profile games as you possibly can. And obviously the Championship is one of the biggest leagues that are on today, because this website sorts by biggest league to smallest league sometimes. Don't take my word on that, but majority of the time that's what it will do. But I've opened up a few, and from what I can see here, Bristol and Stoke, there is 12 goals that go in the opening 15 minutes on average. With Cardiff and Nottingham Forest, there is 12 with just Cardiff. But what I'm looking at here is the fact that Nottingham Forest don't concede very many home or away early on. So that's kind of skewing it just a little bit in the favour of this one as well. But again, that's probably going to be my third choice. And then over with Millwall and Rotherham, we have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So Millwall Rotherham is actually going to be the one I'm thinking of the most at the moment. And then Bristol City and Stoke, and then Cardiff Forest. So they're the best 3 I've found at the moment. So the next step is to go over to Betfair. Once you're over at Betfair, you're then just going to want to open up the games you've selected. So let me just go down to football on this left-hand side, go to the Championship, and you'll see here the list of all the games. So we want Millwall Rotherham, let me just get that one up. We then want Bristol City and Stoke, and then to finish off we want Cardiff, Nottingham Forest. So we've got them all up there. I normally just like to put them next to each other so that they're easy to find on the tabs along the top. And then we're going to get into it. So with Millwall Rotherham, we're going to go down to over under 2.5 goals, and we're going to do this with all 3 of them. We're just going to open up the over under 2.5 goals, and then we're looking for the one that has the highest odds for the under 2.5 goals. So we can see here, none of them really have that great of a selection. So honestly, if I was doing this myself, I would probably scratch that and not use this method. Because for this method, you kind of want it to be close to 2.0 odds for under 2.5 goals, because you want it to be the most profit you can get. But if you were really confident that there was not going to be any goals going in early on, then you could go with these. But these are clearly games where there aren't expected that many goals to go in. So that's the issue that's come afloat here. But not to worry, it does get like this sometimes. That's why in my initial video I did on football trading, I thought the best thing to do is to learn as many strategies as you can. So instead of doing it this way and getting a strategy and then finding a game to fit it, you can just find any game and then know which strategy to pair it up with. So for example, if this Millwall Rotherham game got to the 60th minute and it was a 0-0 draw, you might want to then evaluate whether or not the laying the draw strategy is going to work for this game. So again, you'd use these stats down here. You'd see the average goal time. So you can see here, Rotherham score a lot of goals late on. Millwall even scored the most of their goals, apart from the segment there of 31 to 45. But they scored the most of their goals after that, after the 60th minute. So if it's the 60th minute and it's still a draw, you know that both these teams can score and concede fairly late on. So that might be a good method then to use the laying the draw tactic. Essentially, all you need to do is look up the strategy that you're wanting to use, see what needs to happen, see what you want to happen in the rest of that game. If someone is losing, do they tend to bottle it? Do they tend to come back from that loss and win the game? You just need to know them stats, and this website will show you every single one of them stats that are there. It tells you when the teams score first, it'll tell you the consecutive wins the teams had, it'll tell you the best offence, the best defence, it tells you the total match goals they've had in their recent games. When you know what stat to look for, you can find it on this website. And if you don't know what stat to look for, then you probably don't know the trading strategy well enough to be able to do it without losing quite a bit of money. You can always do it and get lucky, but if you know the trading strategy well enough, then you'll know exactly what you need to happen in that game, And if you know what you need to happen in that game, if you know a team needs to score or a team needs to concede, you can come and check the game stats before that and see how likely it is to happen. Obviously, you can do as much research as you want, and still it can all just get thrown out the window. It's football at the end of the day. It's not going to be exactly what you see on paper, but the reason why we research it is to give us the best chance of being right. If you don't use the stats, then it's your own fault if you lose money, essentially. But you could literally spend hours reading the stats, researching the games, and it could still not pay off, because it could still just end up being football, and anything can happen in football. But doing this gives you the best chance to be able to make a profit. But that is it, really. I know it wasn't the longest of videos or the most in-depth of videos, but there is a lot of sites out there that do stats, and I'm sure some of you guys will have some other recommendations to let me know down in the comments. This one just goes in a lot of detail for every single item that's available, which is why I prefer to use it. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find one for the under 2.5 goal method, which is what I was looking for. But I am now going to keep looking. I'm going to keep looking until I find one, because I need to find one for the video. So I'm going to be right back, and I'll show you guys the final method I choose, or the final game I choose, and then you'll also have a little bit of a insight, to be honest, because you'll have already saw the under 2.5 goal video, so you'll know which one I've gone with. Or if you haven't already seen it, go back and watch it, because you'll want to see if me doing this actually works or not. But let me go ahead, go find a game to choose, and I'll show you guys which one we end up with. Just as another little quick method then, one of the other things you can do, if you would prefer to do it this way, is you can come over to Betfair first, go up to the match odds on here on the top, and actually change it to under over 2.5 goals. So for the strategy I'm looking at, the under 2.5 goal strategy, it needs to be around 2.0 to 2.5, as I will have explained in the video last week. So you can see here, under 2.5 goals, there is none that are 2 or above. There is one here with Preston Norwich that is 1.94, so especially given the fact that we are nowhere near kickoff yet, that might rise, because they do tend to rise, or has some sort of increase or decrease before the game starts. So that might be one worth looking at. We've then got another one down here, 1.95, but again you can see the actual amount of money that's in these games. There isn't too much there available, so it is a bit of a worry, but there isn't that big of a selection of games on there today. There's no Premier League, there's no other leagues from around Europe, so we do have a bit of a lower selection out there today. But you can still see there is 1 or 2 games, so that 1.94 and 1.95 do stand out. So then you're pretty much doing the reverse of what we just did. You are then going to make sure you have these stats loaded up, so you can keep double checking. You can see there's been 2,000 matched there and 1,400 matched there, so it probably will be fine if you're only doing £10 or £20. If you're doing a couple hundred, probably still be fine, but try and make sure that you don't exceed what has already been matched out there, otherwise you might just be left a bit confused with how much you've actually bet. So then what you're going to want to do is come over to Soccer Stats, or whichever stats website you're using. You're then going to open up them websites. So we've got Wickham and Blackburn, and then we also have Preston and Norwich. Let's get them up and double check when the goals have been going in. So with Preston Norwich, you can see Norwich score and concede a lot in them opening half hour. So that is definitely not one we're going to want to be using. That is instantly a red flag there. Yes, they score a lot, and they even concede quite a bit as well. Preston, on the other hand, don't, and they are the home team, but it's still not something I'd recommend. You can see down here, Preston's goals mainly come in the second half, even if it's scoring or conceding, so that's spot on. If it was Preston with any other team, I'd be happy to do it. But when you look at Norwich, you can see they concede and score their goals mainly in the first half. So it's not one you're going to want to touch. You want to give yourself the best chance here. So even if these weren't in this section, if they concede and score more than 50% of their goals in the first half, this is not the strategy you want to be using. It's as simple as that. Maybe you could do a first half laying the draw if it gets to the 30th minute and there's been no goals. A tactic like that might work in this method, because you can see that Norwich do tend to score and concede most of their goals in the first half, so that will be a better method. But it's definitely not suited for the under 2.5. Whether or not you then want to just look into it in a bit more detail and say, actually, it's been an international break, some of Norwich's players will be tired, they might not be fully fit, they're probably going to want to just get through the first half and not have anything go on. There's loads of other things you've got to keep in mind. But if you want to give yourself the best chance, I wouldn't recommend doing it for this game. I might end up doing it with this game just to see what happens in terms of what the other game is looking like. But if the other game looks even a slightly bit better than this, I will not be doing this one. So let's get into the Wycombe and Blackburn one. Scroll right down at the bottom, and you can see here that both the teams tend to score and concede most of their goals in the second half. So there we go. Wycombe Blackburn is going to be the game I use for this. It's at 1.95 at the moment, which isn't great, but like I said, anything 2.0 and above, and as always, they're only guidelines. So if you go beneath the guidelines, don't expect as much profit as you would have expected before. But what we can see here is there's been a kind of decrease a little bit, but there has still been some matched above 2.0, so that still gives us a bit of hope. So I am going to be using this one for my over 2.5 goals method or under 2.5 goal method. So if you want to see the results of this and you haven't already watched that video, go back and watch it from last Thursday. But it's essentially as simple as that. When you're trying to decide what results or what game best fits a strategy, it's as simple as just doing a little bit of research. You don't have to spend hours doing it. Just research a game, see what tends to happen, and then see what strategy best fits that. For some strategies, it's impossible to plan from the start, such as laying the draw or any of the other second half strategies. They're ones where you'll need to come back at half time and redo any research you did. But what I found is you can actually pair up quite a few strategies. So for example, this under 2.5 goal strategy, you're not wanting any goals in the first half. So you can do this for the first half. If it's successful, you've made some profit, you've cashed out. Half time comes up, still 0-0. 60th minute, still 0-0. But you know these two teams like to score and concede goals. So then you know that there's going to be goals coming in that game. So then you can lay the draw. And it's just loads of different methods like that. You can normally intertwine these methods and get some profit from both the first and the second half. But again, always do the research. There is loads of different ways you can do the research. Obviously, you can even just wing it if you know the leagues very well or the teams very well. It's completely up to you. But some people asked for a guide on how you can choose the best team and the worst team for this. I'd probably recommend coming over to Betfair first, getting up the exchange. Let me just close all of these down that I don't need anymore. But getting up the exchange, going over to football on the left-hand side, choosing whichever league you're looking at. Or to be honest, if there's not that much football on, you can just do it like this. Choose up here whichever method you need to see, and then review which ones would suit the criteria best, and then head over on to Soccer Stats or any other website that'll give you the stats you need, and see if the stats fit the pattern for the method you're going to use. Hope that was helpful. If any of you have got any other methods you use yourself, please let us know down in the comments. Like I said, I'm kind of new to all of this, so any tips are very helpful. If you've got any recommendations for videos you want to see coming up in the future, doesn't have to be football, trading related, literally anything related to making money online, I'm more than happy to give it a try to. But thank you for watching, thank you for all the support in the recent weeks, it's been incredible as always. So thank you for watching, I'll see you guys next time.